Hi everybody, I'm Bree the Plant Lady checking in with a video all about Seedling ID. So much of the way I garden revolves around direct sowing seeds, but how do you know what has just germinated? And that is what today's video is addressing. I want to be able to show you the good things that I am growing on purpose and the self-sowers that I need to come through and get rid of. So let's join me as we go through my beds and identify all of the different seedlings that are growing now in late November here in central North Carolina, Zone 7. Top priority here are the poppies. And that is what poppies will look like about a month after they've been sown. And I have them at all different stages of size. But basically they're like a really pale green with kind of some light hairs on them. You kind of see the fur and a scalloped edge. So that is Papaver somniferum, the beautiful flower that I'm always posting about in April and May. Another one of my favorite plants to grow is carrots. And this is a freshly germinated carrot seedling. You can see it has a really long, narrow cotyledon leaf and then this sort of frilly true leaf. And there's just a couple germinating here. I know I sowed a bunch of carrot seeds in this bed. And carrots are great because they'll just fill in the gaps and you can harvest them for the root or you can leave them in and allow them to flower in their second year. What else is germinating in here? Well, I see cilantro. And cilantro becomes obvious pretty quickly because, you know, it's a recognizable leaf, something that you actually buy at the grocery store. And it too will germinate with these just strap-like cotyledon leaves, and then it produces true foliage. And of course you can harvest this throughout the cool season. Make sure you leave some to go to flower. That way you will always have cilantro to be able to grow from seed. Now these large silvery strap-like leaves, that belongs to Bachelor buttons or centuria or cornflower. And these will grow all winter long and then produce beautiful flowers in the spring. They're a really large plant. So, you know, these will easily be 4 foot tall by probably 2.5 foot wide. All right, so far I've only shown you the good stuff, but there are some bad things in here. This is a type of lamium. Sometimes people call it lamb quarters. And that has a scalloped, you know, a scallop leaf. And it can be a really vigorous self-sower. Got another one here. You can see it's different enough from the poppies that you shouldn't get them mixed up. Poppies here, here, here. And this weedy lamium. So people always ask, well, can't you just let them self-sow? And of course you can. It's just that the poppies specifically, really all these things, will always grow where you don't want them. Like here, I've got larkspur growing in the lawn. Same thing here, poppies. These are all poppies. They're not growing in the bed where they belong. They're growing along the edge. And that's because this ground wasn't disturbed and it wasn't replanted on for the summer. And the seed had light to germinate. And that's why poppies always grow in super inconvenient places. Now, people always ask, well, why can't you just transplant it? And I know, that's a really good question. The thing is, poppies develop a taproot, and so do, you know, carrots and cilantro and larkspur. All of these plants develop taproots. They don't transplant. You could try. I mean, I have done it plenty of times. Basically what happens is, say I was to dig this up. I would move it into the bed. It wouldn't die. It just won't grow. You don't have to take my word for it. I encourage you to give this a shot because you always learn more from hands-on experience. But this is a perfect example of why you can't just let the poppies do their own thing because they will always grow where you don't want them to grow. Now here is a great example of poppies growing where they don't belong in the lawn, mixed with one of my biggest challenges of the winter, chickweed. So chickweed is this. And yeah, it's edible. And you know what? I think that it's great that people eat it. I don't grow it on purpose. I don't want it all through my beds. And unfortunately, I have quite a bit of it growing here. And last year I let this get out of control. And so I have to do a better job of not having that happen this year. So a little bit of time, just hand weeding it out. You can see there are poppies mixed in. I want to have those poppies grow, but I don't want the chickweed. The chickweed will smother everything. And again, if you're growing it for the purpose of eating it, that's awesome. I'm not. I want poppies, and I want my violas to not get smothered, and you know, I want my ornamental plants. Now, growing in here also, these are self-sown. This is larkspur. So you see larkspur also has these sort of oval-shaped cotyledon leaves, and then this true leaf, which is basically 3 sections with 3 scallops or prongs. I'm not using any of the right language for this leaf description, but you can see how that's all one leaf, but it has like 3 distinct sections and then 3 sections in each of those. And here it is a little more mature. And of course, here's the chickweed. It's not, I mean, it's not hiding in plain sight. It's just right there, you know. And I have a lot more chickweed than anything else in here. That's what all this is. It's much easier to get it out when it's small than letting it grow. And it really will smother absolutely everything. I know I made a video last December where I was in here. It's like getting balls and balls of it. It can really be an aggressive plant. All right, more weeds. I've got lots of that lamium. That's this. The nice thing is this does come out relatively easily. And you know, get it before it flowers. So now is a good time. But in this bed, I also have a huge vetch problem. And this is gonna take some time and effort. Vetch is this. And this is actually a nitrogen fixer. I did not plant it. This is the weedy vetch. This is common vetch. And I have it in a lot of beds. This isn't the only place. And the problem with vetch is you almost never really get the whole root out. And you see these nodules. Every one of those nodules that they break off, it just forms a new plant. So this is often best sprayed. But of course we're cold now and most herbicide doesn't really work, and I'm an organic gardener. So I'm gonna come through and be really careful, try to, you know, get these out to my best capacity. See again, those nodules. I'll never conquer the vetch problem here. This will be a forever and ever thing. But I can do my best to try and control it at this stage. And again, not let it smother absolutely everything else that I'm going to plant in here. Because right now, this bed hasn't been winterized. You see, it's still, well, you know, it looks crazy and messy. But I'm going to come through and then I'm going to direct seed things like poppies and larkspur. And I don't want the vetch to overrun those things that I'm growing with purpose. All right, there was all kinds of stuff happening in this bed. This is all larkspur. You can see where it's just germinating and then it's getting some true leaves. Over here, these are more mature. Lots of larkspur in here. Now, in contrast to the larkspur, which you see has this more rounded leaf right here, this is Nigella. You see, Nigella grows more like elongated, whereas larkspur grows more rounded. So that's how you kind of tell the difference between these two. The leaves are very, very similar, and honestly, the seeds are almost identical. So it's really confusing. You have to label. But that is the difference. See, the leaf shape is different. This is Nigella. This is larkspur. So you can see through here, there's a lot of different stuff, some good, some bad. So this is actually carrot. This is Nigella. This is chickweed. Pull that out. Oops. You have to be careful when you have this kind of density. Lots of chickweed. Lots and lots of chickweed. Of course, over here, some other bad things. Here's that lamium. More lamium, more chickweed. So once you recognize the seeds, it's actually really easy to go through and weed out these beds. But if you don't know what the seedlings look like, it can be really confusing and overwhelming. So I totally get why people are confused and ask a lot about how do you really do this. All right, now another plant that I just think is a nightmare, awfulish plant. Again, people will be like, oh no, it has medicinal benefits. That is great. I don't care. I don't use Galix for its medicinal purpose. This is also known as the Velcro plant, and that's because it sticks to absolutely everything, especially cats. My cats, I think, are the #1 culprit for spreading this around my garden. And I have a big population here in this bank, kind of below my greenhouse, where a lot of seed ends up washing. So this is something that I have to pay attention to all winter long, because what I'm doing now, more will germinate. That's just the nature of the beast. And I haven't done any seed sowing, intentional seed sowing in here yet, but I am seeing what look to be poppies that have self-sown. And you can see why. There's no mulch. You see, this is just bare compost. So it's very possible for poppies to self-sow in this because they had the light to germinate. I'm hoping that's a poppy. At this stage, it looks like a poppy, but you know, you can be wrong. But I do see larkspur here. That is Velcro weed, big fat cotyledons. And then this is another plant that for me is a huge problem. This is that native Carolina geranium, and it'll just take over. Again, what I call a weed, someone else is gonna have a different opinion on. I'm just giving you my honest assessment for the plants that I grow in my garden, and this is not something that is of benefit. So I have a lot of weeding to do. I definitely see poppies here. And of course you can see where I stepped. Don't mess up the germination rate. And lots of weeding to do up and under this crop of broccoli. Another huge problem plant for me is this. Is easy enough to pull out. Actually, I've got a couple things going on in here. They're all bad. There you have it, my honest assessment. Everything germinating in here. All is green. This is all undesirable. There is the mulberry weed, which I don't think is actually cold hardy, although I don't know. Then there's more of that geranium. And then there's this thing, wintercress. I don't grow wintercress on purpose either. What else do I see? You know, whenever you see seeds germinating like this, be suspicious. It's probably not something you want. I wish that I could give you different advice about that, but that has been my experience. Whenever I have an area that has this kind of density, it's nothing that I actually want to grow. Well, I hope this video will be helpful for some of you who are struggling to figure out what is growing in your gardens right now. You know, we're definitely getting into colder days, shorter days as we enter into the month of December. And there's a lot of good stuff that will be germinating, and then there's a lot of undesirable stuff as well. And just stay tuned for my weekly garden tours where I will continue to post updates on the good, the bad, and the ugly. And if you found this video to be helpful, please share it with a friend and give it a like. Thanks so much for watching, everybody.